If your daughter-in-law took you shoe shopping but ended up expecting you to pay for a $6,000 handbag for her, what would you do? Would you swallow your anger yet again to keep peace in the family? Or would you make it clear that your retirement savings were not hers to spend whenever she pleased? Until that day, I had always believed that loving your children meant being more forgiving. If I gave in, there would be one less argument in the family. Only later did I realize that every time I took a step back, some people pushed my boundaries back another step. My name is Laura Bennett. I'm 65 years old, and it has been several years since I retired from teaching high school math. People always say math teachers think clearly and aren't easily fooled. But it took me this long to understand that the hardest thing to calculate in this world has never been numbers. It's the human heart. It was a bright, sunny Saturday. I had changed into my workout clothes and was about to leave for a morning yoga class at the community center when my daughter-in-law, Melissa, suddenly called. "Mom, are you free today? I thought we could go downtown and do some shopping." Her voice was unusually sweet. "You've been wearing those sneakers for years. Let me take you to get a comfortable new pair. Then we can have lunch and grab some coffee. It's been so long since we went out by ourselves." Her words stirred something in me. Melissa was usually busy managing her social media accounts. She was what people called a lifestyle influencer, spending every day researching clothes, cosmetics, restaurants, and the newest designer labels. She had plenty of time to meet her friends but very little time for me. The sudden interest she had taken in my old sneakers made me wary. But I agreed anyway. For one thing, I really did need a new pair of shoes. For another, I wanted to see what she actually wanted that day. We agreed to meet outside the most upscale shopping mall downtown. Melissa was wearing a sharply tailored new outfit and carrying one of the season's most fashionable designer handbags. The moment she saw me, she hurried over and affectionately linked her arm through mine. "Mom, you look wonderful today. Come on. Let's look at shoes first." We visited several athletic shoe stores in a row. Melissa claimed she wanted to help me choose a good pair of walking shoes, but her attention was never really on the shoes. Every time I tried on a pair, she either said the style was too plain or that the color didn't suit me. There were two pairs that I found very comfortable, but she quickly handed both back to the sales associates. "The styles here aren't that good. There are better brands upstairs. Let's go take a look." Just like that, she pulled me away from the athletic section and led me straight into the luxury boutiques. Every item in the display windows had an astonishing price tag. The air smelled of perfume, the sales associates wore immaculate suits, and even their voices were deliberately hushed. My suspicions grew stronger. Sure enough, we hadn't gone far when Melissa acted as though she had suddenly spotted something and pulled me to a stop outside a luxury designer boutique. "Mom, since we're already here, let's go inside and take a look. We don't have to buy anything. There's no harm in looking." She made it sound casual, but there wasn't the slightest hesitation in her steps. The moment we entered, she headed straight for an orange handbag on a display shelf. "Oh my God, isn't this the limited edition bag I've been wanting? I can't believe they still have one." A sales associate immediately approached us. "You came at exactly the right time. This is the last one in the store and we only just put it out. This color looks wonderful on you." Melissa eagerly slung the bag over her shoulder and examined herself in the mirror from one angle after another. "Mom, what do you think?" She turned and looked at me expectantly. "If I carry it the next time I go to one of your friends' gatherings with you, everyone will notice. It'll make you look good too, won't it?" I glanced at the price tag. $6,000. Making me look good was an excuse. Adding another debt was the real goal. Melissa modeled the bag in front of the mirror for nearly half an hour before finally acting as though she had made a momentous decision. "All right, I'll take it. Please wrap it up for me." She took a credit card from her wallet and confidently handed it to the sales associate. A few seconds later, the associate returned with the card. "I'm sorry, but the card was declined." Melissa's expression shifted slightly. "That's impossible. Try it again." The associate ran it a second time, but the result was the same. Melissa pulled out another card. "Try this one." The second card was also declined. The associate tactfully explained that it did not have enough available credit. Melissa bit her lip and took out a third card. That one was declined too. After 3 credit cards failed in a row, the confidence finally vanished from Melissa's face. She was silent for several seconds before turning to me with a pitiful expression. Mom, I bought some furniture this month, so I'm probably just temporarily short on available credit. She came over and gently took my hand. This is the last bag in the store. If we don't buy it now, someone else could take it at any moment. She paused, then lowered her voice. Could you pay for it now? As soon as I get my bonus next month, I'll transfer the money to you. I promise I'll pay you back this time. As I looked at her wounded, earnest expression, the ledger in my mind, the one that had never truly been closed, opened once again. A year earlier she had taken $3,500 from me, saying she wanted to buy the highest quality piano for my grandson. More than 6 months earlier she had said she needed a package of cosmetic treatments and asked me to pay another $3,500. Every time she claimed she only needed the money temporarily. Every time she promised to repay me when she received her bonus. But none of those promises had ever been kept. If I asked even one question, she accused me of not trusting her or said I cared more about money than family. Now she wanted to use the same tactic again, only this time she was asking for $6,000. If I refused in front of the sales associate, she would undoubtedly go home and have a huge fight with Eric. She would say that I, her mother-in-law, had deliberately humiliated her and made her lose face in an upscale boutique. Family conflict had always been Eric's greatest fear. Whenever Melissa and I had a disagreement, he urged me to be more understanding because I was the elder and because he didn't want to go home and face his wife's anger. If I refused, our family would soon be trapped in another endless argument. But if I agreed, I knew I would never see that $6,000 again. I took a deep breath and gave her a gentle smile. Turning my hand over, I patted the back of hers. All right. I'll help you. Melissa's eyes lit up instantly. Really? Thank you, Mom. I knew you were the best. The sales associate also looked visibly relieved and picked up the payment terminal again. But my debit card has a daily spending limit. I can't charge $6,000 at once. I felt around in my pocket, deliberately looking troubled. Melissa froze. Then what are we supposed to do? It's all right. There's a bank next to the mall. I'll go take care of the payment and be right back. I pointed at the handbag. You stay here and have the associate hold it for you. Don't let anyone else buy it. Melissa hesitated for a few seconds, but she clearly wasn't willing to give up the bag. Then hurry. They might not hold it for very long. Don't worry. I turned and walked calmly toward the escalator. Melissa remained inside the boutique watching me the entire time. She made almost no effort to hide the expectation in her eyes. Once I disappeared around the corner, I did not go to the bank. I walked straight out of the mall. The sunlight outside was almost blinding, but suddenly, even breathing felt easier. I called a cab. When the driver asked where I wanted to go, I gave him the name of a nearby park. As soon as the car started moving, I took out my phone and switched it off. At last, the world was quiet. 1 hour passed. Then I sat alone on a park bench watching people walk their dogs, stroll along the paths and play chess beneath the trees. It was a rare, peaceful afternoon. I could imagine Melissa still waiting inside the boutique. She had probably called me countless times and might have been pacing in front of the sales associate. Every time she dialed my number, all she would hear was a message saying that my phone had been turned off. I didn't return home until it was almost dark. When I switched my phone back on, dozens of missed calls and a flood of messages came through at once. Most of the calls were from Eric. I took a deep breath and called him. He answered after a single ring. Mom, where have you been? Why was your phone off? Eric sounded so anxious that his voice was trembling. Melissa said you went to the bank and never came back. I've been looking for you for hours. I was about to call the police. Eric, I'm fine. I deliberately lowered my voice, slowed my breathing and made myself sound weak. What happened to you? Where are you now? I'm home. I paused as though I were struggling to recover my strength. When I got near the bank this afternoon, I suddenly felt dizzy. Everything went black and I could barely stand. It may have been low blood sugar. I had no choice but to sit down by the side of the road and rest. I still felt terrible afterward, so I went to a nearby clinic. Then my phone died, so I couldn't contact either of you. Low blood sugar? What did the doctor say? Are you sure you're all right now? Eric's anxiety immediately turned to concern. I lay down at the clinic for a while and drank something with sugar in it. I feel much better now. I only just got home. Thank God. You scared me to death. I heard him release a long breath. Then, as if the thought had suddenly occurred to me, I asked apologetically, "By the way, what happened to Melissa? Was she unable to buy the handbag after all? What a shame." There were 2 seconds of silence on the other end. I continued, "It's all because my health failed me at the worst possible time, just when she needed me most. She must be so disappointed. When I'm feeling better, I'll take her back there." Before I could finish, I heard Eric turn and lose his temper with someone beside him. "Melissa, are you still crying over that handbag?" His voice was filled with long-suppressed anger. "Mom nearly fainted on the side of the street and all you care about is that bag. Did it ever occur to you that something serious might have happened to her?" Even over the phone, I could imagine the look on Melissa's face. She knew perfectly well that I had left her in the boutique. She knew I had never gone to the bank. But with a mother-in-law who had just collapsed, she couldn't openly accuse me of anything. She was furious, yet she couldn't manage a complete rebuttal. That was the first time I made her understand that I did not have to passively accept whatever she arranged. But it was only the beginning. After ending the call, I sat on the old couch I had owned for years and watched the night deepen outside my window. My mind remained unsettled for a long time. What I had done that day had certainly given me a sense of satisfaction, but that brief pleasure had not solved the real problem. Instead, it had made Melissa's attitude toward money completely clear to me. This was not the first time she had used family ties to take from me, and it would not automatically be the last. If all I did was avoid paying for this handbag, she would simply find another excuse. I went into my study and pulled a thick ledger from the back of a drawer. I had used that ledger for many years. After I retired, I recorded my everyday expenses, savings, and every significant family payment in it. I put on my reading glasses and turned through the pages until I reached the entries involving Melissa. 2 years ago in May, she took $2,500 from me because she said she needed a designer handbag for an important gathering. Never repaid. 2 years ago in October, she wanted a limited edition necklace and had me pay $3,000. Never repaid. A year ago, she took $3,500 from me because she said she wanted to buy my grandson a good piano. Never repaid. 8 months ago, she wanted the newest phone and laptop and had me pay $3,000. Never repaid. 6 months ago, she took another $3,500 from me for a package of cosmetic treatments. Still never repaid. Every time she took money, she solemnly promised me, "Mom, I'm borrowing this money. As soon as I get my bonus, I'll pay you back." 1 year passed and then another. I had no idea whether she ever received those bonuses. All I knew was that my money never came back. I took out a calculator and entered each amount again. The final figure on the screen was $15,500. That was not an amount I could simply overlook. It was the retirement savings left from my many years of work, my protection if I became ill, and the security that allowed me to grow old without depending on my son. But in Melissa's eyes, my savings seemed to be nothing more than a wallet she could open whenever she pleased. I closed the ledger and took a deep breath. I had been too afraid of conflict before, always believing that if I yielded a little more, our family could remain peaceful. But my concessions had not earned me respect. They had only convinced Melissa that she did not need to repay my money and could push my boundaries back again and again. That night, I made a decision. From then on, I would never again pay for any of her unnecessary purchases. And as for the money she had already taken, I was going to make her face it. After the handbag incident, Melissa remained quiet for a while. She didn't invite me shopping again, nor did she come to visit. I knew she was still angry. She simply couldn't find a suitable excuse to confront me. But her silence did not last long. A few weeks later, she came to my house again. This time she was not alone. Her mother, Patricia Walker, came with her. It was a weekend and Eric had been called into the office. Melissa and Patricia stood outside my door with a fruit basket, both wearing broad smiles. "Laura, it's been so long." The moment Patricia entered, she warmly clasped my hand. "I heard you suddenly felt ill while you were out a while ago, so I wanted to come see you. At our age, we can't afford to neglect our health." Her unusually affectionate manner immediately put me on guard. I invited them into the living room and poured them coffee. At first, we discussed ordinary family matters. Then, halfway through lunch, Melissa suddenly put down her silverware and leaned closer to me. "Mom, there's an incredible investment opportunity right now. The moment I heard about it, you were the first person I thought of." My heart sank slightly, but I didn't let it show. "What kind of investment?" Patricia immediately took over. It's an online investment company called Northstar Digital Capital. They make money trading cryptocurrency and their returns are extremely consistent. As she described the company, she spoke rapidly with a strange excitement in her eyes. They guarantee a fixed annual return of 20%, and your principal is completely safe. This is the perfect time to get in. Melissa chimed in beside her. The minimum investment is only $30,000. Mom, don't you have some of your retirement savings in bank certificates of deposit? The interest you're earning is far too low. If you put the money into this, you'll make $6,000 in a year. As I listened to them reinforce each other's sales pitch, a chill spread through me. A fixed annual return of 20%. Complete protection of the principal. Those two promises taken together were inherently unreasonable. I had taught mathematics all my life. I wasn't an investment expert and I knew nothing about complicated cryptocurrency trading, but I understood one fundamental principle. High returns always come with high risks. If someone promises you returns far above what a bank offers while assuring you that you cannot lose a cent, then what that person truly wants is probably not to increase your earnings but to take your principal. Besides, if this opportunity was really such a reliable way to make money, why were they so determined to involve me? I did not expose them immediately. Instead, I pretended to be interested but hesitant. 20% a year? Can they really guarantee that the principal is safe? Of course. Patricia immediately took out her phone and opened her bank account records. Look, this is the return I received last month, nearly $400. The money arrived right on time, every cent of it. Melissa quickly added, my mother already invested and she's received money herself. We're family. Do you really think we would deliberately hurt you? But $30,000 isn't a small amount. I frowned as though I were seriously weighing the decision. If something happened to that money, I would lose the security I need in my later years. You're just too conservative. A note of impatience had already entered Melissa's voice. They're about to close this round of investment. If you keep hesitating, you could lose the opportunity. Patricia immediately added, we only told you about this because we consider you family. We wouldn't necessarily share an opportunity like this with anyone else. I nodded. This is a major decision. I need some time to think about it and go over my accounts. When I didn't reject them outright, Melissa and Patricia exchanged a glance. Both of them looked visibly relieved. You can think about it, but don't take too long, Patricia warned me again. Mr. Cole said they'll stop accepting new investors very soon. After lunch they did not stay long. They left soon afterward. The moment the door closed, I took out my phone and called Helen Brooks. Helen was my most trusted friend. Before retiring, she had practiced law for decades. She was a much better judge of people and risks than I was. I told her everything that had happened that day. After listening, Helen said only one thing. Laura, this is obviously a trap. I think something is wrong too. But Patricia really did receive a payment. Receiving one payment doesn't mean it was an investment profit. Helen's voice was firm. Many Ponzi schemes give early participants a small return at first. That money may simply be the principal contributed by later investors. As long as new money keeps coming in, they can maintain the illusion that everyone is earning profits. He paused before asking, did Melissa leave you any information about the company? Yes. She left a promotional packet and told me to read it carefully. Then let's investigate it. Don't refuse them yet, but don't transfer a cent. The next day Helen and I met at a quiet coffee shop. She brought her laptop. Using the company name, website, and contact information from the promotional materials, we checked every detail one by one. What we found was even more serious than I had expected. Northstar Digital Capital claimed to be registered overseas, but its public registration information could not be verified. Its listed American office was merely a virtual address. No actual investment company operated there. Neither the company nor the people selling its investment program appeared in legitimate investment regulatory records. A considerable number of complaints had already appeared online. Some people said their accounts continuously showed profits, but whenever they requested a withdrawal, the platform demanded additional fees. Some paid those fees and still could not get their money. Others were told they had to invest even more before the restrictions on their accounts could be removed. We continued investigating Richard Cole. People online had accused him of promoting several similar high-yield programs in the past. At first, each one appeared to generate normal returns. Then the websites suddenly shut down and countless investors were unable to recover their principal. Helen turned the computer toward me. It's perfectly clear now. She pointed at the complaints on the screen. This is a Ponzi-style investment scam. They're using money from later investors to pay earlier ones. The moment new money stops coming in, the entire operation will collapse. As I read the victim's comments, a chill ran down my back. If I had actually invested $30,000, I might never have recovered it. That was my retirement security, not disposable money I could simply earn again. What are you going to do? Helen asked. Give the investigation results directly to Melissa and Patricia? I did not answer immediately. I pictured the $15,500 recorded in my ledger. I also pictured Melissa standing in the boutique, acting as though it were perfectly reasonable for me to pay for her handbag. A plan slowly began to form in my mind. Of course I'm going to stop them from investing any more money. I set down my coffee cup. But before I do, I'm going to make Melissa repay what she owes me. Helen studied me for several seconds. What are you planning? If they need me to invest $30,000, I'll make them provide half of it first. 2 days later, I called Melissa and asked her to come to my house. The moment she entered, before she had even settled into her chair, she asked eagerly, Mom, have you made a decision? Mr. Cole says they're going to stop accepting new investors in the next few days. I deliberately remained silent for a moment before giving her a serious look. I've thought it through. Opportunities like this really don't come along often. I'm willing to invest $30,000. Melissa's eyes lit up instantly. Really? That's wonderful. I knew you would understand eventually. But I have a small problem right now. I took out a $30,000 certificate of deposit and let her glance at it. I have $30,000 in this certificate of deposit, but it won't mature for another month. If I withdraw it early, the process will be troublesome and I'll lose the interest. Melissa immediately said, That small amount of interest is nothing compared with the return on this investment. You should just withdraw it now. I know. I patted her hand. But at the moment I only have $15,000 that I can access immediately. Since the minimum investment is $30,000, could you lend me the other $15,000? The smile froze on Melissa's face. You want me to lend you money? Yes. I spoke as though it were the most natural thing in the world. If you lend me $15,000, I can immediately put together the full $30,000 and secure my place in the investment. When my certificate of deposit matures next month, I'll repay you right away. Melissa fell silent. For her, $15,000 was certainly not an amount she could produce casually. But I knew she couldn't easily give up on getting my $30,000 either. If Patricia truly needed to recruit a new investor before she could recover her own money, then I was their most important target. Sure enough, after hesitating for a long time, Melissa gritted her teeth. All right. I'll find a way. She stared at me and asked for confirmation. But you have to pay me back the moment that certificate matures next month. Of course. I gave her my gentlest smile. I'm your mother-in-law. Do you think I would lie to you? The following afternoon, Melissa transferred $15,000 into my account. Even I was surprised when I received the bank notification. The fact that she had raised so much money in such a short time showed how desperate she had become to push this investment through. But at the time I did not know where that $15,000 had come from. I did not transfer the money to North Star Digital Capital. I left it in a secure savings account. Then I began deliberately stalling. On the first day, Melissa urged me to sign the investment documents. I told her I had suddenly come down with a cold and was too dizzy to read the small print. I said I would handle it when I felt better. On the third day she called again. I told her I had misplaced my driver's license and could not open the investment account without valid photo identification. On the fifth day she said Mr. Cole was demanding payment. I told her the bank had placed the large transfer under security review and that I was waiting for it to be cleared. With every new excuse I gave, Melissa became visibly more anxious. But she did not dare turn against me. She was afraid that if she lost her temper I would cancel the investment. That week she came to my house almost every day. She brought me fruit, kept me company, and took the initiative to ask how I was feeling. One day she even walked into the kitchen, washed the dishes, wiped down the table and mopped the living room floor. It was the first time since she had married Eric that she had voluntarily done any of those things in my home. I stood in the kitchen doorway watching her clumsily wash the dishes. I felt no gratitude, only a growing chill. If she truly cared about me, she would not have suddenly become thoughtful only when she needed $30,000. Every act of devotion she performed during those days had a price attached to it. Her efforts to please me did not soften my resolve. If I yielded again, she would never understand that the fruits of another person's labor were not hers to take whenever she wanted. A week later, I knew there was no point in delaying any further. Melissa's patience had reached its limit. It was time for the final confrontation. That morning I called Eric in advance. I asked him to take a day off from work, come to my house and wait in the study. I did not tell Melissa or Patricia. If I merely repeated what happened later, Eric might still believe it had been nothing more than a misunderstanding between his wife and his mother. I wanted him to hear for himself exactly what his wife and mother-in-law had done. At about 10 that morning, the doorbell rang urgently. When I opened the door, Melissa and Patricia were standing outside. Both looked grim. As soon as they entered, the atmosphere in the living room became tense. Patricia did not exchange pleasantries as she had during her previous visit. The moment she sat down, she said, "Laura, this opportunity really can't wait any longer. Mr. Cole knows a lot of important people and he said this round closes today. All you have to do is transfer the $30,000. A few months from now, we can all travel together with the money we've earned." She spoke excitedly, but I noticed that her hands were trembling slightly. Her eyes did not hold the easy confidence of someone who was making money. They showed barely concealed panic. That was not excitement. She looked more like a drowning person desperately trying to seize the last thing that might keep her afloat. Melissa pressured me from beside her. When I still did not agree and simply continued drinking my coffee, she finally lost patience. "Mom, if you truly don't want to invest, that's fine." Her voice abruptly turned cold. "But please return the $15,000 I lent you first. I had to raise that money on short notice, and now the other party is demanding payment." I set down my coffee cup. At last she had stopped pretending. "Patricia." Instead of responding to Melissa, I looked at her mother. "Why are you so desperate for me to invest?" Patricia clearly hadn't expected the question. I continued, "How much money have you actually invested in this company?" She quickly forced herself to regain her composure. "I've invested $25,000. She even deliberately straightened her back. "The returns arrive on time every month. I only told you about such a wonderful opportunity because I consider you family." "Can you withdraw money every month?" I asked. "Of course." "Then can you withdraw your entire $25,000 right now?" Patricia did not answer immediately. I pulled a folder I had prepared from beneath the coffee table and placed the investigation materials in front of her. "Read these first." My voice was calm. Northstar Digital Capital's supposed overseas registration cannot be verified. Its listed American office is nothing more than a virtual address. Neither the company nor its sales representatives appear in legitimate investment registration records. There are already numerous online complaints from people who cannot withdraw their money. Several programs that Richard Cole previously promoted also ended with their websites shutting down and investors unable to recover their principal. The color slowly drained from Patricia's face. She picked up the documents, her hands shaking harder with every moment. "That's impossible." She rapidly flipped through several pages. "Mr. Cole told me the company was only making temporary adjustments to its accounts. He said that if I brought in one new investor who put in $30,000, they would restore withdrawals on my account." Her voice began to tremble. "He also said my original investment would earn an additional return and might even double." At last I understood why she had been so desperate. She had not been sharing an opportunity to make money with me. She had been trying to use my $30,000 to recover her own $25,000. "Patricia, did you ever stop to consider this? If a company is truly making money for you, why would someone else have to invest $30,000 before you could withdraw your own funds?" She stared blankly at me. "They aren't investing your money for you." I pushed one of the complaints toward her. "They're using later investors' money to pay the so-called returns shown to earlier participants. That $400 you received wasn't a profit. It was probably another victim's principal. Now that you're trying to withdraw your money, they're forcing you to recruit someone else. Even if I actually transferred the money, they wouldn't restore your account. They would simply invent another excuse and continue demanding more. Patricia collapsed against the couch. Her eyes went vacant as she murmured over and over, "Buy money. That was everything we had saved for our retirement." As I looked at her, I suddenly became certain of one thing. She had not known from the beginning that it was a scam. She had truly believed it. At first, she was a victim hoping to earn a high return. Later, when she could not recover her principal, she refused to admit she had been deceived and could only keep believing Mr. Cole's promises. In an attempt to save her own money, she had begun concealing the risks and trying to draw another family member into the scheme. That was the most frightening thing about this kind of scam. In their desperation to recover their losses, victims can end up recruiting the scammer's next victim. After hearing all this, Melissa, who had been standing nearby, also turned deathly pale. She clutched the arm of the couch and slowly sank to the floor. "It's over." Her voice was barely audible. "It's all over." Patricia suddenly turned toward her. "What's wrong with you?" Melissa looked up and tears spilled from her eyes. "Didn't you say that if we found one more person to invest $30,000, you would get your money back?" Her voice grew louder. "You said it was the money you needed to survive. You said that if my mother-in-law agreed to invest, everything would go back to normal. So..." Patricia stared at her daughter, a new fear appearing in her eyes. Melissa finally broke down. "I never had $15,000. She sobbed as she spoke. "To transfer that money to Mom, I borrowed $15,000 from a high-cost online lender. The first payment is due soon. The interest and penalties are going to destroy me." Patricia shot to her feet. "You took out a high-interest loan?" "I did it to help you." Melissa was almost screaming. "You kept saying that once we got this money they would restore your account. Then you could repay me and I could pay off the loan." The mother and daughter stared at each other, finally realizing that they had dug an even deeper hole with their own hands in an attempt to fill the first one. Melissa suddenly seemed to remember something. She turned, came over on her knees and stopped in front of me. "Mom, you didn't transfer the money to them, did you?" She clutched my hand. "You still have that $15,000. Please give it back to me first. I have to deal with that loan immediately, or it will destroy my accounts, my credit, and my entire family." I looked at her face, distorted by fear. "All right." Melissa's eyes immediately lit up. "But you have to sign a written repayment agreement." I spoke clearly. "The principal will be $15,000. You'll repay me $600 every month until the entire amount is paid off." Melissa froze. A few seconds later she shrieked. "Why?" She released my hand and stared at me in disbelief. "That $15,000 was my money. I lent it to you. Why do I have to sign a repayment agreement? Why should I have to pay it to you again?" "Your money." I stood, walked over to the desk and retrieved the thick ledger. I placed it on the coffee table and opened it to the pages I had marked. "Melissa, look at these." I pointed to the first entry. 2 years ago in May, designer handbag, $2,500. Then the next. 2 years ago in October, limited edition necklace, $3,000. Then another. 1 year ago, a piano for the child, $3,500. 8 months ago, a new phone and laptop, $3,000. 6 months ago, cosmetic treatments, $3,500. I placed the calculator in front of her. $15,500 in total. Melissa stared at the records, unable to say a word. Beside each payment, I had written the date, what the money was used for, and her promise at the time to repay it. "Every time you took this money, you said it was a loan." I looked at her. "But you never repaid a single dollar. I didn't charge you interest and I didn't hound you for payment every day in front of Eric. That does not mean the money automatically became a gift." I closed the ledger. "The $15,000 you transferred to me this time will be applied to your previous debt. I will forgive the remaining $500 and won't pursue it." Melissa's face grew paler by the second. "So this $15,000 is not money you lent me. It is repayment of your old debt to me." I paused to make sure she heard every word. "Now, if I take out another $15,000 to help you deal with that high-interest loan, that will be a new loan. I'm willing to save you from this situation, but I will no longer pretend that the money does not need to be repaid. You must acknowledge your previous debt, and you must accept responsibility for this new loan." Melissa lowered her eyes to the ledger. At last she understood that the money she thought she had lent me had actually repaid only part of what she had previously taken from me. All the numbers she had ignored for years were now laid out in front of her. Not one of the debts she had avoided had truly disappeared. As silence settled over the living room, the study door suddenly opened. Eric walked out. Melissa jerked her head up. "Eric." Her voice was filled with panic. That morning I had specifically asked Eric to take the day off and wait inside the study. I needed him to hear the entire conversation for himself. If I told him about it afterward, he might still believe I was prejudiced against Melissa or trying to drive a wedge between them. But now he had heard every figure and every admission from Melissa and Patricia's own mouths. Eric looked at his wife sitting on the floor, then at his mother-in-law collapsed on the couch. For the first time, genuine anger and disappointment appeared on his normally gentle face. "Melissa." His voice trembled slightly. 10 months ago you told me you had lost $10,000 trading stocks. You made me use all my personal savings to cover the loss." Melissa would not look at him. Eric continued, "Did that $10,000 go into Northstar Digital Capital too?" The room was so quiet that we could hear the clock ticking on the wall. At last, tears streaming down her face, Melissa nodded. Eric closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He had always tried to maintain peace on the surface. If his wife said the money had already been spent, he found a way to replace it. If his wife and mother had a disagreement, he asked his mother to yield a little more. He had believed that if he did not ask questions, the problems would gradually disappear. Only then did he understand that his avoidance had not protected the family. It had merely given Melissa the opportunity to turn one lie into another. Eric took out his phone. "We're reporting this right now." First, he contacted the local police and explained that our family might have been targeted by an online investment scam. Then, following the officer's instructions, he gathered the Northstar Digital Capital website, promotional materials, account records, transfer information, and Richard Cole's contact details. The police sent officers to the house to take statements and collected the relevant materials for investigation. They questioned Patricia and Melissa separately. Patricia explained how she had found the company, invested $25,000, received her first return, and been told by Richard Cole to recruit new investors. Because she had also lost her retirement savings, the police initially recorded her as a victim and witness and took no further action against her at the scene. Eric also filed an online fraud report with the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. We all knew that once money had been transferred to a fraudulent investment platform, the chances of recovering it might be slim. But reporting the crime would at least prevent Patricia from investing more, provide the authorities with additional evidence, and perhaps keep more people from being drawn into the same scam. After the police left, the house finally became quiet. Melissa sat at the table, looking at the written agreement I had prepared. The terms were stated clearly. She acknowledged that the money she had previously borrowed from me totaled $15,500. The $15,000 she had transferred into my account would be applied to that old debt. I voluntarily waived the remaining $500 and would not seek repayment. I would then provide another $15,000 to help her settle the high-interest loan. She would repay this new $15,000 loan at a rate of $600 per month until it was paid in full. Melissa held the pen, her hand trembling constantly. She knew I was not trying to drive her into ruin. On the contrary, I was preventing the high interest from continuing to grow and giving her one final opportunity to rebuild her credit. But this time, helping her would not mean unconditionally taking responsibility for the consequences of her actions. She had to sign. In the end, Melissa wrote her name on the agreement. As promised, I also provided the $15,000 to help her settle the high-interest loan as soon as possible. I did not hand her the money to use as she pleased. Instead, Eric and I verified the loan account and payoff amount together, ensuring that every dollar actually went toward the debt. For a long time after that crisis, our family did not gather together. Patricia lost $25,000. It was a significant portion of the money she and her husband had saved for their retirement. Melissa not only lost every advantage she had taken of me over the years but also found herself responsible for a new debt that she had to repay each month. Eric was forced to face the fact that his wife had concealed her financial situation from him for years. None of us could return to normal within a matter of days. But real change began in the chaos that followed. Several months later, on a weekend, Eric drove Melissa and Patricia to my house again. This time, they did not bring expensive gifts or any opportunities to make money. Patricia had clearly lost weight and looked much older than before. But her eyes no longer darted about with the same anxiety and agitation. As soon as she entered, she walked over to me. "Laura, I'm sorry." She lowered her head. "If you hadn't discovered the truth in time, we might have kept putting even more money into the scheme. I almost ruined my own retirement and I nearly dragged you down with me." She paused, her voice filled with genuine remorse. "I'll do what I can to help Melissa repay what she owes you. But I understand that the responsibility is hers first." Melissa also came over. She had cut her hair short and wore no conspicuous designer labels, only a simple shirt and jeans. She gently took my hand. "Mom, thank you for not giving up on me." Her voice caught slightly. "I used to think that carrying designer handbags and wearing expensive clothes would make people envy me. I mistook that envy for happiness and I took your tolerance for granted. It took this disaster to make me realize that the image I created by maxing out my credit and borrowing from my family could not survive even the slightest emergency. I hurt you before." Eric stood beside her, holding her hand tightly. Then he looked at me too. "Mom, I'm responsible as well. For years all I wanted was to smooth things over. As long as no one argued in front of me, I pretended the problem didn't exist. I ignored our family finances and never seriously reviewed Melissa's spending. The first time she concealed a debt, I filled the hole for her without demanding the truth. My avoidance allowed this situation to grow step by step. From now on, I'll accept my responsibility. We'll organize our accounts, debts, and monthly expenses and make everything clear." I looked at the three of them, and the pressure that had weighed on me for so long finally began to ease. The crisis had cost everyone something. But if those losses could buy genuine clarity, that was better than allowing the lies to keep growing until they destroyed the entire family. I asked them to sit down, then took a booklet I had compiled from the bookshelf. The cover read, "A Guide to Investment Fraud Prevention and Family Finances for Seniors." I handed the booklet to Melissa. "If you had spent even a portion of the time you devoted to researching designer labels and social media learning about investment scams, this might never have happened." Melissa lowered her head in shame. I continued, "There's nothing wrong with wanting to make money and there's nothing wrong with wanting a better life. But high returns never come without risk. When someone promises that you can consistently make a great deal of money while guaranteeing that your principal is completely safe, your principal is usually the very thing they're after. Take this booklet home and read it carefully. Explain it to Patricia too. From now on, if you do not understand an investment, do not transfer money simply because someone is pressuring you." Melissa accepted the booklet and nodded solemnly. I looked at her again. "As for that $15,000 repayment agreement, it is more than a record of your debt. It is the beginning of rebuilding your credit. The next time you come to me, I hope it will not be because you want me to pay for something. I hope you'll tell me that you've used your own income to put your life back in order." Tears spilled from Melissa's eyes again. "I will." From then on, our family's life truly changed. Melissa listed the designer handbags, clothes, and jewelry she rarely used on secondhand marketplaces. She stopped spending every dollar she earned to maintain a glossy appearance. He found a steady job. The salary was not as high as she had once dreamed, but it was money she genuinely earned through her own work. Every month she transferred $600 to me according to our agreement. Life was not always easy for her, but she never again made excuses or asked Eric or Patricia to repay the debt for her. Eric began managing the household accounts seriously. He and Melissa listed their income, fixed expenses, and outstanding debt together. Neither of them was allowed to conceal a credit card or loan again. Patricia also stopped communicating with Northstar Digital Capital and no longer believed anyone who claimed they could help her recover the money. As for me, my life also entered a new chapter. I stopped arranging all my time around my son and daughter-in-law, and I no longer treated the appearance of family harmony as my responsibility. I continued attending adult education classes at the community center and resumed meeting my friends regularly. I still loved my family. But love no longer meant paying for every impulsive purchase they made. Nor did it mean pretending problems did not exist simply to avoid an argument. Later, the community center held a fraud prevention seminar for retired residents. Because I had experienced such a scheme myself, the staff invited me to speak about how investment scams exploit high returns, urgency, and family trust to erode a person's judgment step by step. After the presentation, a friend who had attended classes with me for years took my hand. "Laura, there's something completely different about you lately." She smiled at me. "You look more energetic than you used to. I've heard Melissa has changed too and treats you with real respect now. How did you do it?" I took a sip of hot tea from my insulated mug and looked at the bright sunlight outside the window. "There's no secret," I said. "I finally understood that respect is not something you earn through endless concessions. You must first make it clear what can be negotiated and what must never be crossed. We can love our children and we can help them when they face difficulties. But if helping them means repeatedly shielding them from consequences, that isn't love. It merely enables them to continue hurting themselves and their family. A truly responsible parent or grandparent does not fill in every hole their children dig. When the children take the wrong path, you pull them back, then make them learn to stand on their own strength." After saying that, I picked up the ordinary canvas tote bag I had carried for years. It had no conspicuous designer logo and it was not worth $6,000. But as I carried it out of the community center, I felt more secure than I ever had before. The sun was shining beautifully that day. As I walked slowly home, I finally realized that my sense of relief did not come from Melissa lowering her head to me, nor from finally balancing the figures in my ledger. What truly gave me peace was knowing that I had stopped betraying myself for the sake of so-called family harmony. No matter how old we become, what truly protects us is not whether our children promise to care for us or whether someone guarantees that they will repay our money. What truly protects us is sound judgment, savings of our own, and boundaries we can still defend even when facing our family. Family ties cannot replace responsibility. Helping your family does not mean allowing them to cross your boundaries again and again. A secure retirement cannot depend entirely on other people. Having savings of your own, clear judgment, and the right to make your own decisions, that is genuine security. If your child or daughter-in-law repeatedly used family ties as an excuse to take from you, would you continue giving in, or would you do what I did and make every dollar and every boundary clear?